Hey guys, this is Tim from Crack Skull Studios. Just doing a rant here. This is kind of a, I guess you could say it's a bit of a combination video. I was originally going to do just an introductory video, introduce myself a little bit, tell you a little bit about some of the stuff that we'll be doing. But after viewing some stuff on YouTube the other day, I ran across Templar's Crusade 01, and he was talking about how the community has been changing. And I know I'm only 30 years old, but I've been in the community for quite some time, and I figured I'd do a bit of a video response along with the introduction that I was looking at doing. Hopefully I don't ramble on too much while doing this, mainly because of the fact that I got a couple of things I'm working on at the moment. Right now I'm actually working on some concept sketches for 3 boards that I'm going to be working on for Warhammer 40K. There's a lot of excitement at our local club about 6th edition, and so I'm working on some concept sketches of stuff that I would like to add into the board. Yeah, I figured I might as well start this off telling you a little bit about myself. I started the hobby probably back around 1997, 1998, somewhere around there. Started off with Warhammer 40K, and you know, back then I had to drive, I don't know, to Madison, so it was about 45 minutes from where I lived in order to find a hobby store that actually sold any figures for Warhammer 40K. And during that time, you know, this is really before internet sales started picking up and anything else that, or, you know, even information on the internet for that matter, that people started to pretty much just gather in their friends' basements or over at their friends' houses. Like, I know, for example, one of my good friends, Brandon, he actually had a large basement at his place, and so a lot of the times when we would game over there. And in a way, I guess you could say it was kind of like a best kept secret, if you want to think of it that way. You know, not a lot of people knew what wargaming was, or what you know, how the miniature hobby formed, or, you know, even how it came to be. So to a lot of people, it was just kind of like a fantasy game with little plastic soldiers, and, you know, they didn't really think too much beyond that. And you know, it didn't have the exposure that it does now, especially, you know, thanks to the internet and having a lot of the interactive media such as YouTube. You know, the big thing that we always did was, you know, we always tried to get together and play on a pretty regular basis until, obviously, high school ended. You know, we both kind of went our separate ways. Life kind of got in the way. He ended up going over to going off to college. I ended up moving down to Florida and got involved in different careers down there. And so, unfortunately, the hobby kind of took a bit of a back burner for me. And it wasn't until, let's see here, probably early 2010 that I started getting back into it, right around about March. I decided, you know, I've been away from the hobby for a long enough time. I was in a position in my life to where I could afford to start armies over again. And I actually got involved at a local comic book / hobby store that we had down in Florida called Emerald City. And I actually started off again with the War Machine and the Hordes games. Started playing Troll Bloods. And I guess that was the first time that I noticed that the community did change a lot from what it was before. And the big thing that I noticed is that the games themselves presented themselves a lot differently. You know, not saying that 40K was a bad game in any way, but, you know, Games Workshop has always really talked about the fact that they're a hobby first and a game second. So they really wanted you to focus on the models themselves and focus on, you know, building the models, painting them up, and making them look as gorgeous as you possibly could, regardless of what your skill level was. They really wanted to encourage that part of the hobby. And a lot of the games that I noticed at that point that came along, the thing that I noticed really drew people to them was the fact that they were more of a, I guess you could say, tournament-worthy game. They, War Machine especially, they build it around their different tournament bases. Every year they release a new rule set that's called the Steamroller, that essentially, if you were to run any type of a tournament format, you use the Steamroller format in order to do so. So it kind of keeps everybody on a level playing field across the board as far as what scenarios would be run. So in a way, the tournament scene coming out in that way really brought the hobby, in my opinion, more to the forefront for a lot of people, because of the fact that, I know certain people frown upon tournaments, and they frown upon some of the conduct that can be seen at tournaments, and believe me, guys, like, I've noticed it myself. I'm actually a very competitive player, so there's times where I might come across as a bit harsh, but at the same time, I still embrace people into the hobby. I still bring them in, and especially if I play somebody and I beat them, and especially in a tournament setting where you play to win, I always make sure that I explain to them afterwards what they could have done differently, or help them improve. And it should be the same way even when you're working on the hobbyist aspect, whether it be building the terrain or painting or anything like that. You should always help people improve upon what they're doing in the hobby. That's how the community grows. The wargaming community is so varied now because it's no longer just Games Workshop at the forefront. There's a lot of different companies that have come along. Weird Miniatures with Malifaux, Privateer Press with War Machine and Hordes. Heck, even Iron Wind Miniatures started re-releasing a lot of Battletech figures, which look absolutely amazing if you're into more of the mechanized combat. There's Heavy Gear, Infinity. The list just goes on and on and on, and they vary in games of all different sizes, where you got your full-scale warfare like Warhammer, down to more of your skirmish-based games like Malifaux. So the hobby itself has changed a lot in the fact that it's not just a matter of large armies as well. But going back to what I was saying about the tournament scene, the thing I noticed that, to me, that I gathered as a positive out of the tournament scene is that, yes, it kind of leveled the playing field across the board as far as how people play, and yes, it did attract sometimes the people that you wouldn't ever want to play against if you were just playing for a casual game, because they were always in it to win. They were always in it looking to beat you. And there's always those people that are negative on everything. Let's face it, kind of a harsh statement here, but none of us ever got rich playing a game of Warhammer or War Machine in tournaments. It doesn't work out that way. It's not a competitive sport, so really, what do they get out of it by winning and gloating over you? I mean, really nothing. All it's doing in a way is kind of proving that, well, they get laid a lot less than you. So, that being said, I really like the tournament scene and what it kind of brought about, because it's giving a social outlet for the hobby. In a lot of different ways. A lot of people, they go to the tournament and they gather for the game aspect. They gather for, the use of the rules and the models in a game aspect. But then you really get a chance to see the displays that people have done, like different basing techniques people have used on models, different painting techniques that people have used. That's the thing that I really liked about it, is that it really kind of, in a way, gave the community that push to get out there and be more social with itself. And that's something that I'm actually grateful for the tournament scenes. I know I mentioned in the first video that we filmed that we have a tournament coming up for our local game club. It's the first one ever that we're running. And one thing we've noticed across the board is, even though I did introduce a lot of people to the new store, to a lot of the different games, that if there's more of a league aspect or a tournament aspect, people are more interested in joining, because they feel that it's more than just lackadaisical play, for lack of better terms. They they feel that they're playing with a purpose. They feel like they're getting into the hobby with more of a purpose. And then from there, they really start getting into more of the hobby aspect of it when it comes time to the wargaming community. They start really focusing, especially after their first few games and seeing people with really awesomely painted armies, that they start thinking, well, if they can do it, I can do it too. And it's always exciting for me, especially like in a league setting, like when I ran our 40K league for the first time, seeing people that first come to the table with, bare bones models. They just barely put them together, still got some flash on them, little things like that in between, not even any primer in a lot of cases, just literally the models are glued together on the base. There you go, there's my army. And then as the league comes along, the people start painting, and the games start getting more and more exciting, because you can start seeing these people improve what they're painting, and they start taking a lot of the passion into the painting, and a lot of the passion into just the modeling itself. They start caring more about their models, which is a great thing to me. Personally, I prefer to play against people with painted armies, and I know that I'm probably going to get a little bit of hate for that statement, but let's face it, when we all got into the game in the first place, what really excited us about it was not little bare metal or plastic miniatures on a table. We saw fully painted armies in either catalogs or books, or even the displays that people had in local stores, or whatever the case may be, and that is what drew us to it. It is what caught our eye. And that to me is still a very, very important aspect to the wargaming community, is the hobby aspect of it. And I'm going to be honest with you, since looking at a lot of the different YouTube channels, and keep in mind, I haven't been too keen on YouTube up until recently, just being busy with everything and just focusing on life in general, that I noticed how the community has grown online, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that people have taken that step forward to showcase their stuff. One of the things that I really like to see is a lot of the different pros showing their stuff off, but what really inspires me to do a lot of these videos, and I'll be doing some painting tutorials and even some terrain tutorials coming up here. We need to get a little bit better equipment. Right now I'm working with some pretty bare bones equipment. Is the fact that someone does a fantastic painting or a terrain tutorial, and it comes out looking very professionally done, beautiful models, everything about them is gorgeous, and then seeing a lot of the response videos from a lot of the newer people, to where their stuff might not look as good as the person that they're trying to emulate, but they do this response video and they show the techniques that they learned in that video as kind of like a big thank you to that person for showing them those techniques. And to me, that's absolutely wonderful. I would prefer to see more in our community, a lot of the beginners, if you would, filming more. One thing I've always said to a lot of the guys at the store is, don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to try new techniques in modeling or painting, or anything in between. You could end up coming up with something that none of us ever thought of, that all of a sudden we think it's a fantastic idea and we start emulating it, and we've been at it for a long time. I'm going to use a good example of that. My friend Tyler, he just started painting this last year. Almost never picked up any models in his life and started painting. I actually kind of gave him that push into the hobby. And I started him off pretty basic when I was showing him how to paint with a lot of the kind of 3 color standards, and using just a base color, wash, and highlight on his models. And he really started taking washing to a whole new level. I have watched him at this point take models and just literally prime them white and work with nothing but washes and just hammer out some of the most gorgeous models I've seen in a very long time. And he's only been painting for a little less than a year. So to me, that's amazing. That's something I really like to see, and I would like to encourage more people to go out on their own and try new things. So, yeah, I do believe that the community is growing. I do believe that it's moving in a new direction that, you know, I know certain people don't really care for when it comes time to the tournament scene, or you know, some of the more competitive play, if you want to look at it that way. They feel that it kind of detracts from the hobby as a whole, and you know, it leads people to kind of be lazy on the modeling side. And in a way, yes, I can see that, but it also gives exposure to the games that we love to play, and the, you know, the hobby as a whole. It really gives exposure to, you know, just the different companies that are out there. And the great thing about YouTube especially is, you know, everybody's got their own opinions on things, which I really enjoy. Is, you know, someone may look at something totally different than I do, but they bring up a point to where, you know, thinking back on it, you know, yeah, they bring up a very valid point, or they showcase a product or a technique that I've never seen before that suddenly I pick up and start using. Actually, Marnius Augusta Calgar, I was watching a couple of his vids, and you know, if you watch this, highly doubt you will, but if you do, I really do have to thank you for showing me some of the stuff from the Pig Iron Productions after you mentioned them. I went on their website and started looking at their soldiers and their walkers, and I think they just have the one basic tank right now. But that stuff looks absolutely amazing, and I'm actually looking at picking up a couple of guys here and a few of the walkers, and just trying a couple different paint schemes with them, and kind of using them as more of a fresh take on a couple of Imperial Guard units, and just seeing how that looks. But there's a lot of different people out there that are using a lot of different conversion kits and a lot of different techniques, and, you know, just swapping parts from different model lines that a lot of people probably wouldn't be aware of if it wasn't for people filming things on YouTube and putting them out there, or, you know, blip.tv or a couple of the others like that out there. And in a way, it makes the community become a little bit more alive with interactivity. I like the fact that we can interact with one another in a way that we really couldn't before with the hobby. You know, true, you know, like Templars Crusade 01 and Marnius Augusta Calgar, they're over in England, I believe, and you know, true, we may never sit down at a table and play a game together, but with YouTube and some of the different outlets out there, Facebook, Twitter, and all the like, we have a way of communicating and showcasing a lot of the different stuff for our hobby, which to me is absolutely amazing, and it's something that I encourage everybody to do, especially, and I'll state it again, especially if you're a newcomer to the hobby. Nothing to me is more rewarding than seeing the new people that are getting into the hobby coming forward and posting content. Even if, you know, here's the thing, don't be afraid to post. Even if you think that your work is terrible compared to somebody else's, or, you know, you don't feel confident about it, don't let that stop you from contributing in whatever way that you can. You know, if you found a technique that works for you, and you know, you might think that your stuff may only be good for, you know, what a lot of people consider tabletop ready quality, and it may not be, you know, Golden Demon or professionally painted, I guess quality, if you want to call it that. Still showcase it, because if anything, what that's going to do is it's going to show a lot of the newer people into the hobby, just like yourself, that they can do it too. They don't have to be intimidated by painting. They don't have to be intimidated by the modeling aspect. I found that over time, a lot of newer members of the community respond a little bit better as far as emulating projects or trying new techniques if they see it from someone else who's also fairly new. Because they go onto different, YouTube channels and whatnot, or different websites, and they see people's work that have been doing it for quite some time, and, may be considered, display or professional quality, and they get a little intimidated by the techniques that are used, and they think to themselves automatically, I can't do that. Now, I'm not one that's a firm believer in, I can't do something, and I don't think anyone else should be either, but I do notice that it's a lot easier for people to emulate something, especially if they're brand new to it, if they're seeing it from more of a beginner's aspect. And that's actually something that I definitely encourage out of the community as a whole. I know that there's going to be a couple guys from my game store that are going to be watching this, and I encourage them to film and post their findings. I want to see battle reports from them. I want to see painting tutorials from them. I want to see terrain tutorials from them. Heck, I even want to see different rants of how they feel the community has really kind of taken a hold of them and how it's embraced them. Just to give you a good example as to how the community does grow and how easy it can be to grow, the Labyrinth Games, which is a store that, it's our local game store that really we kind of operate out of, just opened up this last August. And it was primarily a card shop as far as like Magic the Gathering and World of Warcraft, and that's still primarily what a lot of it is for. Is a lot of card tournaments are held there. We still have Friday Night Magic over at the shop, and a lot of the different games like that, which is wonderful. But there really wasn't anything there for wargaming, and a few people were interested. Well, after I kind of moved back to the area and I talked to a few people, I mentioned the idea of a Warhammer 40K league, and people really liked the idea of it. And since we started, we've gone from a handful of, I want to say, about 4 or 5 guys to now we have about, if I were to guess, I'd say probably about 15 or 16 active people at the store that play now, and there's a lot more that are joining. Heck, I just met a couple of guys the other day that were just looking at getting into the game. One guy's actually doing a whole different concept that he wanted to do with Ultramarines that, that involved some of the Ultramarine blue and pink, which I thought was an odd combination, but I'm not going to be the one to stop him. I for one, welcome it. I want to see something a little bit different. I want to see what kind of crazy shenanigans he comes up with for this color scheme. And, we've attracted a lot of people just by, really kind of having a beginner's community. As far as like any veterans to the game there, all we really have is myself and I want to say 3 or 4 other people, and then everybody else that's coming into that is all brand new. And to me, it's very refreshing to see. I'd really like to see the new guys stepping up and trying something new and showing, I guess if you want to call us the veterans of it. I don't really like using that term, but the guys that have been at it a while and showing them cool techniques. Again, kind of going back to my buddy Tyler, with his washing techniques, I'm constantly impressed with the techniques that he does, and where a lot of his stuff that he does right now, is definitely more along the lines of, I guess if you want to call it tabletop quality. There's very few people that I know of out there that can hammer out models consistently with the same consistency and clean lines like he does. He's just got his technique and his speed to it, and it's absolutely amazing to watch. I can't even pull something off like that. I mean, I guess I'm a bit more of a slower painter when it comes time to, some of the things that I do, but he's managed to, take even the stuff that I showed him and run with it, and it's an absolutely wonderful thing. But, yeah, I mean, as far as the community itself goes, I really do feel that it is growing, and it is changing. And whether or not it's changing in a way that's, some people see as better or worse is kind of their opinion. I guess on my side, I see it as a good thing. I see a lot of the changes are for the better in the community. I see it as the natural progression of anything that's kind of a hobby like this, to where people are going to see it and they're going to recognize that yes, it is a game. It's got rules to it, and they're going to want to see some sort of standardized play of some sort, and they're going to want some way of getting people together to play the game that's a little bit more than just a casual level. Let's face it, if it was just on a casual level all the time, yeah, we'd still get together and play because it's something that we like to do. We'll still get together with buddies and we'll work on models, painting them or just building them and whatnot, but it's still on that casual level to where, life's going to get in the way at some things, and, we'll always find something a little bit more important, where people start focusing on more of that tournament aspect that I noticed, and they start taking it, I guess for lack of better terms, a little bit more seriously. They start looking at it in a way that really adheres to their passion of the hobby, which might be the competitive side, which again leads them to introducing it to more of their friends so they have more opponents to play against. And really, when you think about it, what more can we ask for as a community than to have more people joining? Yes, we have the tournament players, we've got the hobbyists, we've got the people that do everything in between, but that's what makes this hobby and the community itself so diverse, is the fact that we've got so many different people looking at it from so many different levels that we've always got fresh perspectives to it. And we may not always agree with those perspectives, but it's still showing that the community is growing. It's still showing that it's evolving and it's changing. And true, there might be certain things about it to where we may not enjoy it, but it still goes forward to show that it is thriving. There's new companies that are popping up all over when it comes time to the miniatures, and a lot of them are absolutely fantastic. And heck, I even know there's a couple independent companies out there just working on brand new stuff, either be it game-wise or miniatures-wise, just from, having a YouTube channel and kind of talking about it. I know Les over at Awesome Paint Job and Chung over at War Games Consortium, they actually have a few models that they're working on right now. They have one that's coming out pretty soon here. I want to say his name is Wade or Wilson. It's something along those lines, but it's their first miniature, and I don't know if there's any game rules behind it, but they showed the concept art of the miniature, and they showed the basic sculpt of it, and it looks gorgeous. I mean, it's something that I think the hobby really needs, is to have new companies popping out there showing off their stuff. And again, Marnius Augustus Calgar mentioned the Pig Iron Productions, and if you guys get a chance to check that stuff out, I would definitely look at it too. I mean, they only have a few models right now, but the models that they have look amazing. I was thoroughly impressed with what they had to offer. And even again, like some of the smaller games that are out there, Cypher Studios, kind of up and coming with Hell Dorado and Anima Tactics, where, yeah, some of their miniatures might have a little bit more of that anime feel, and not everybody is into that. And Hell Dorado's got more of that Wild West feel. They have like such diverse model lines that you can't help but appreciate it. You can't help but really look at it and say, wow, this is a company that's really passionate about what they're doing, and it gets people excited in the community. It gets people excited in the hobby. That's just, it's kind of the natural progression of things. New companies are going to spring up, and they're going to, probably in a lot of people's minds be better than the ones that have been there before. I know for the fact there's a lot of people out there that prefer War Machine and Malifaux over Warhammer 40k or Warhammer Fantasy for that matter. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's still coming across as the hobbyists themselves. They're still coming across as enthusiastic wargamers that are willing to try new products in a lot of cases, and they're willing to try new techniques and new conversions. I mean, with a lot of the new plastic kits that are coming out for different companies now, there's been a lot of people that have been doing some absolutely amazing stuff when it comes time to magnetizing the miniatures. And I think it's wonderful for people to look at that kind of stuff in the hobby, because for me personally, I look at magnetizing as a way to not only save yourself money when it comes time to the different miniatures that are out there, but it also allows you to build the models you want in your own way. Make them customizable, make them posable. There's a lot of people out there that may not be very good at working with the temperatures on plastic and bending the plastic in a way that they like, and they might be a little intimidated by it. But by adding magnets to some of the larger kits that are out there, be it either dreadnoughts or warjacks or war beasts or whatever else there are in the different games, it really allows people to make their games a little bit more dynamic. It allows them to have a little bit more control over how their miniatures look, and it makes them stand out from everybody else who's playing the same game, which I think is wonderful. So yeah, I guess in a whole, to kind of sum things up, the community is changing, and the internet's really helping with a lot of that, and it's evolving in a way that's allowing it to be more accessible, I guess, to a lot more people than what it was before, where, let's face it, before we were all just kind of a bunch of weirdos sitting in basements or, having boards up on coffee tables or kitchen tables taking up space playing these games, and then, a lot of people were wondering what exactly it was that we were doing, and every time we tried to explain it, we'd either end up falling short or people just weren't interested, to where now people can see a lot more of that out there on YouTube, or just going on the internet and typing in like the different companies and seeing the display stuff they have, and seeing that they have actually active, thriving forums for the games. And it really shows that it's a thriving community. It's a community that's really giving back to the hobbyists and the enthusiasts of it as a whole. Compared to just, I have my group, and 100 miles away there's somebody else that has their own group, and 100 miles from that again there's someone else that has their own group, and we never really had a chance to interact before, where now a lot of those barriers are being broken down, and I for one am very happy about it, and it excites me. And again, if you're new to the hobby, don't be afraid to voice your opinions or voice your techniques, or show a lot of us older guys that have been at it for a while, like what you've got, like what you've learned, and different techniques that you've found to use on your armies, or even just showcasing some of the stuff that you're working on. Even if it's just posting a video online saying, hey, I'm building this kind of a terrain, and this is where I'm at so far, and any suggestions or comments that you have would be welcome. I know I, for one, would be more than happy to subscribe to your channel and help you out in whatever way that I can. And if someone's got ideas that are better than mine, or something else where you think they have a better concept than what I do, by all means, use it. In the end, it's your project, it's your channel, it's your feedback as to what you want to do with it. I guess that kind of leads to another point too that was brought up in a couple of the videos is, don't be afraid of what people post. You're always going to get someone out there somewhere that's very negative, and they're always gonna write something either insulting or you know, basically shuts you down for what you're doing. And when it comes time to stuff like that, just ignore it. Just, you know, if you get a chance to go onto your page, like if you got a YouTube page and whatever the case may be, and just erase it. You know, nobody needs to see that kind of negativity. We're all here for the same thing. We're all here trying to grow the hobby, grow the community, and, you know, really promote what excites us about it. And the last thing we need is someone coming on there, you know, saying something negative, be it like saying you have a terrible paint job, or like, you know, you have terrible modeling skills, or if you're doing battle reports, saying that everything that you did with your army was wrong and you should feel ashamed for doing it that way, or, you know, something, you know, I've seen people post something an awful lot worse, you know, stuff that would make the Pope blush if he saw it. But, you know, I think that's, it kind of comes along with that whole anonymous internet, you know, entity, I guess, if you want to call it that, that we've kind of grown accustomed to. Is, you know, now that people aren't meeting with people face to face, a lot of people feel that they can be absolute jerks about different things, which I think is wrong, but it's out there and it's inevitable, and it's something that we all kind of have to deal with. So, especially if you're new to the hobby, you know, just get rid of those comments. Don't let them bother you. You know, you got into this because it's something that interests you, and it's something that you feel passionate about. And there's a lot of us out there that also feel the same way that you do, that are very passionate about it and are willing to listen and watch, you know, what it is that you put out there. So by all means, don't be afraid to post. You know, again, this is only my second video that I'm posting up on YouTube as a whole, and it's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but, you know, as I said, life gets in the way, and it always has a way of doing that and rearing its ugly head. And I'm just thankful that I finally got a chance to do it. So, again, if you're watching this and you like what I have to say, by all means, like the video. And to me, subscribing or liking and all that is great, but to me, what would really impress me more, especially, you know, being someone who's new to either like presenting yourself on YouTube, or, you know, just new to the hobby in general, don't be afraid to state what it is that you want to say, or show us what it is that you want to show us. Especially if it's something that I did or said, you know, in the upcoming videos I got coming up that inspire you, or someone else has inspired you. It really shows us how passionate you are about it. And in a way, that's the greatest form of flattery to me personally, is if I see people that are posting saying, hey, thanks for your input, thanks for your techniques. You know, I got into the game because of something that you said. I started, you know, getting into painting a lot more because of a different perspective that you showed me. That to me means more than, you know, subscribing or just like hitting a like button and posting it somewhere else. You know, and keep in mind, subscribing and, you know, liking the videos are still both wonderful things. It gets us some more exposure out there, you know, where if you feel that we helped you and it's going to help more people, by all means, you know, if that's the way for the community, especially on YouTube, to get out there and showcase it, by all means do it. I mean, heck, I do it too. If I see even one video out of 20 that somebody's got that I like, I still subscribe to it, and I still make comments when I can, just to, you know, let them know that yes, what they do is appreciated, and the techniques that they use, or, you know, whatever it is, whatever kind of content they're posting for this community is definitely appreciated by a lot of us. But yeah, that's really what I got to say about that whole thing. Is the community's growing and it's becoming a lot more interactive, and to me, it's all for the better. And, you know, again, I guess taking it from me, where I've competed in a lot of different tournaments when it comes time to different games, I like what the tournament scene has done for the hobby and the community as a whole. You know, it's really drawn in a lot more people and made them pursue more of it. You know, made them see the different aspects of the game, regardless of whether or not it's the gameplay itself or the hobbyist aspect. I know a lot of you have probably been wondering what it is that I've been sitting here babbling on about and drawing at the same time. If you could see this, I've got a couple of concept sketches here. I don't know how well this camera is going to pick it up. Just it's really not the greatest of cameras, but I'm doing some concept sketches for actually 3 boards that I'm going to be working on for Warhammer. You know, like I said, a lot of us are very excited over at the Labyrinth Games about the 6th edition coming out. And I'm actually working on a 3-piece Apocalypse board. It's going to be 3 6x4 boards. And the great thing that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make it to where each board is its own separate entity, but when brought together, it can make a board that looks very cohesive. What I'm doing with the first board is, and this is actually a little bit of a surprise for a lot of the guys at the store that have heard me talking about the project that I've been working on, or working on the concepts for. I'm having one board that's going to look like flesh that's coming over the top of it. Like it's just this giant entity of chaos that's enveloped the landscape, and it's just it's literally encompassed everything on that board. So it's gonna have a lot of like weird hills with eyes and mouths and claws coming out of the ground. And if you can see it here, I have this kind of central theme right here. This is just, again, a sketch. It's not the actual board itself, but right in the middle of the board I want to have this giant mouth on the ground to where it's going to act like normal terrain or difficult terrain, but it really kind of gives everybody that eerie feeling that they're fighting on something that's living. They're getting, you know, it's a dirty fight. It's something to where nobody feels right being there, except, you know, obviously maybe Chaos, and they're right at home. And then the secondary board that I plan on doing is going to have a couple of outposts on it and a couple of bunkers that have been abandoned for a little while. And that's just going to be kind of more of a no man's land board. And the final board that I'm going to do that's going to kind of connect all 3 is it's going to be more of an industrial setting where there's going to be a lot of pipes and everything running over. And a lot of what I'm using the concept on these 2 boards from, if any of you guys out there play video games, is from Gears of War, a lot of the emulsion factories, if you've seen that, and just the overall like kind of grim, collapsed world look of the surface anyway. If you guys remember seeing any of the Matrix movies from the Matrix trilogy, and not the Matrix itself, not the way that the Matrix portrays it, but what Earthside actually looks like, with the barren, rocky landscape with a lot of like just old, rusted out, abandoned structures because the machines have moved on and done their own thing. So it's going to have a very dark feel to this board with the contrast of this overlapping chaos that's going to come running across it. So right now, I guess I'm a little bit old school. I prefer to do concept sketches before I start drawing out the board itself, because it really kind of helps me add the different details that I really want to add to the board and get it right. But that's what I've been kind of working on, as I've been babbling on at random this whole time. But again, I thank you guys for listening, and I'll be posting a lot more content soon, and it won't just be myself, but a lot of the other guys that I work with over at the game store, and just different guys that I work with in the hobby. So I'm really kind of using this channel not just for me to post stuff, but for them to get out there and do it too. So thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it.